Most people think attention is something you earn after you start talking. But the strange part is that the most magnetic people often get attention before they say a single word. They walk into a room and something shifts, even though nobody can explain exactly why. What are people actually reacting to? Imagine walking into a crowded room. People are talking, phones are out, conversations are happening in every corner, and yet there is always that one person who somehow stands out without trying. Not because they are the loudest, not because they are the most attractive, not because they are desperately seeking attention. So what makes them different? Most people assume charisma begins with words. A clever joke, a great story, the perfect response. But attention starts much earlier than that. Long before anyone evaluates what you say, their brain is already evaluating who you seem to be. And that judgment happens incredibly fast. Psychologist Nalini Ambady became famous for research showing that people form surprisingly accurate impressions from extremely short observations, sometimes just seconds, sometimes less. Before your first sentence is even finished, people are already creating a story about you. The question is simple. What story are they creating? Most people enter social situations focused on getting approval. They want to be liked. They want validation. They want proof that they belong. So their attention immediately moves outward. They start scanning faces, reading reactions, looking for signs that people accept them. The room becomes a giant test. And suddenly every interaction feels important. The problem is that other people can often sense this. Not consciously, but emotionally. Humans are extremely sensitive to neediness because, for most of history, social status determined survival. Your ancestors constantly monitored who seemed secure and who seemed uncertain, who looked trusted, who looked desperate, who looked like they were seeking permission to exist. That ancient software still runs inside the human brain today, and it changes how people perceive you. Have you ever noticed that attention often arrives when you stop chasing it? There is a reason. The people who command attention rarely enter a room asking, "Will they like me?" Instead, they enter the room assuming they belong there. That assumption changes everything. Their posture changes, their movement changes, their facial expressions change, even their timing changes. And timing matters far more than most people realize. Imagine two people walking into a party. The first rushes in. They immediately start talking. They laugh too loudly. They fill every silence. Their behavior communicates one message. Please notice me. The second person walks in calmly. They take a second to observe. They move without hurry. They don't seem concerned about proving anything. Their behavior communicates a completely different message. I am already comfortable. Which person attracts more curiosity? Usually the second, because confidence creates questions. Neediness answers them. When someone appears desperate for approval, your brain instantly understands the situation. There is no mystery. But when someone appears comfortable without demanding attention, curiosity emerges. And curiosity is one of the strongest forces in human psychology. The researcher George Lowenstein developed what became known as the information gap theory. The basic idea is simple. Curiosity appears when people notice a gap between what they know and what they want to know. Magnetic people naturally create these gaps. They don't reveal everything immediately. They don't constantly explain themselves. They don't flood every moment with words. Instead, they leave room for imagination. And imagination is powerful. Think about the most memorable people you have met. Were they constantly performing? Or did they seem comfortable enough to let moments breathe? Most of the time, it is the second, because attention grows in space, not noise. This leads to one of the biggest misunderstandings about charisma. People think charisma means becoming larger. In reality, it often means becoming calmer. A person who constantly tries to dominate attention creates resistance. A person who appears grounded creates attraction. Why? Because emotions spread. Psychologists call this emotional contagion. Research by Elaine Hatfield and her colleagues showed that people unconsciously absorb emotional states from those around them. If someone appears anxious, others feel tension. If someone appears comfortable, others feel comfort. This means your emotional state becomes part of the room, whether you realize it or not. The most charismatic people understand this without necessarily studying psychology. They know that calmness is contagious, presence is contagious, certainty is contagious. And that brings us to something even deeper. Attention is not really about visibility. It is about emotional impact. Many people are visible, few people are felt. A loud person can dominate a room, but that does not mean they influence it. A charismatic person influences the emotional atmosphere itself. People feel different around them. That difference becomes memorable. Consider how many conversations you forget. Hundreds, maybe thousands, yet certain people remain in your memory for years. Why? Because memory is tied to emotion. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio spent decades studying the connection between emotion and decision-making. His work showed that emotion is not separate from judgment. It helps create judgment. People remember how they felt around you. Then they create explanations afterward. This means the goal is not to impress everyone. The goal is to create a positive emotional experience, and surprisingly, that often requires less talking, not more. Most people listen so they can respond. Charismatic people listen so they can understand. The difference is enormous. When someone feels deeply understood, they naturally become more engaged. They open up. They trust more. They invest more attention. And suddenly the conversation feels different, not because of some secret trick, but because genuine attention is incredibly rare. Think about modern life. Notifications everywhere. Messages everywhere. Endless distractions. Most people are physically present, but mentally somewhere else. So when somebody gives their full attention, it stands out immediately. It feels valuable. Because it is valuable. This is why some people can walk into a room and become memorable without being the funniest person there, without being the richest person there, without being the best looking person there. Their presence creates value, and value attracts attention, but there is another layer that explains why certain people seem magnetic from the moment they arrive. Their behavior is consistent. Most people change dramatically depending on who is watching. They become one person around friends, another around strangers, another around authority figures, another around attractive people. The result is subtle instability. People sense it, even if they cannot explain it. The charismatic person behaves differently, not perfectly, but consistently. Their personality feels coherent, their reactions feel authentic, their values seem stable. This creates trust, and trust creates influence. Imagine standing on a bridge. Would you rather cross a bridge that shakes every few seconds, or one that feels solid beneath your feet? People make similar judgments socially. A stable presence feels safe. An unstable presence feels uncertain, and humans naturally gravitate toward certainty. This is one reason confidence is so attractive. Not because confidence is flashy, but because confidence reduces uncertainty. It tells people that everything is okay. That message is incredibly powerful, especially in social environments where many people secretly feel nervous. Now here is the paradox. The people who command the most attention are usually not focused on attention at all. They are focused on engagement. They are interested, curious, present, connected to what is happening around them. Meanwhile, many people who desperately want attention become trapped inside their own heads. They monitor themselves constantly. How do I look? Did that sound stupid? Do they like me? Am I interesting enough? The attention they want from others becomes attention directed toward themselves, and that creates tension. The charismatic person points their attention outward. That outward focus creates relaxation. Relaxation creates presence. Presence creates attention. The entire process works in reverse from what most people expect. This is why trying to appear charismatic often fails. People become performers. They memorize techniques. They rehearse lines, they imitate personalities, but charisma is not a costume, it is a consequence of comfort, a consequence of presence, a consequence of genuine engagement, and people can feel the difference. Imagine meeting someone who seems completely comfortable being themselves, not arrogant, not perfect, not superior, just comfortable. How does that feel? Usually refreshing, because most people are hiding, most people are performing, most people are worried, so authenticity becomes surprisingly rare, and rare things attract attention. This does not mean you should never improve your social skills. Quite the opposite. Skills matter, communication matters, storytelling matters, humor matters, but those skills work best when they rest on a deeper foundation. The foundation is internal security. Without that foundation, every skill looks like a performance. With that foundation, even